Welcome to this 2-hour English vocabulary masterclass. In this masterclass, we are going to use the topic of politics. You are going to learn important political vocabulary, and you're going to learn important everyday vocabulary using political news. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. First, in this masterclass, let's focus on important political vocabulary. Nonpartisan is an adjective that means not a member or connected within a group or political party. The community center is hosting a nonpartisan forum to discuss local issues. So this forum is not related to a specific political party. The opposite of that is partisan. This is also an adjective, and it's strongly supporting a person, principle, or political party. The audience was very partisan and refused to listen to her speech. And that's why I said this lesson is nonpartisan, because it's for everyone, regardless of political beliefs. So if you're excited to learn this vocabulary, put let's go in the comments. And don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. So we have nonpartisan, partisan, and there's also bipartisan. Have you heard this before? This is an adjective and it's supported by or connected to two political parties. And that's the word bi, which represents two. The government released a bipartisan public health campaign. So this campaign was supported by or connected to two political parties. Now, technically, tripartisan, which means three, or quadripartisan, which means four, and you can keep going. Technically, those terms exist, but they're not widely used, at least in North America.
Our long-standing nonpartisan tradition is to make decisions objectively, based only on the best available evidence.
There are concerns that highly partisan volunteers could try to intimidate voters this year.
But this is a bipartisan bill that authorizes more than $7 billion so that initiatives like Feed the Future endure well into the future.
Now let's quickly review the politics, because I hear students using this word incorrectly because of the grammar of the sentence structure. Politics is a noun. This means the activities of government, but it also means an area of study. For example, Maria is studying politics, the area of study. She's studying politics at university. Or perhaps you're at the dinner table and someone could say, let's not discuss politics, the activities of government. Let's not discuss politics at dinner. Now, don't confuse this with the word political, which is an adjective. This means relating to politics, but it also means interested in politics. And did you notice that the noun has that S on it? If you follow my channel, and if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. If you follow my channel, you'll know that I use political articles, news articles related to the study of politics to teach you, my students, English. But the lessons are non-partisan. The focus of the lesson is teaching you vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation. It's not to support or comment on a political party or interest. So remember, you can say Jasper's very political as the adjective, or you can say Jasper's interested in politics, the study, the noun. And of course, you already know politician. This is a noun, and this is a member of a government or lawmaking organization. Amit is a politician. Don't forget that article, because this is a job title and we use articles with job titles. Ahmed is a politician, but most of his life, he wasn't very political.
I wrote about politics, economics, and corporate affairs, and I could have chosen to specialize in any of those fields.
I wasn't really political. I was just a French horn player.
One newspaper from the early 1900s quoted a politician who said, "The Modis had always been loyal to the British Empire.
Now let's talk about a constituency. This is a noun and it's a body of voters in a specific area, and these voters, they elect a representative. But remember, this word constituency, it refers to the whole body as one unit. The politician worked hard to address the concerns of his constituency. You could also say his constituents. So notice we have constituent or the plural form constituents. This is a noun, and it is simply referring to a voter or voters in the plural in a specific area. So I could say, I'm one of your constituents. I'm one of the people who can vote for you if I choose because I'm in this specific geographical area. Or a politician could say, my constituents will be pleased with this new initiative.
The constituency that he or she was running for an office to represent.
Now, in states where judges are popularly elected, they have constituents.
Now let's review some common vocabulary, and I want you to pay attention to the sentence structure. She voted in an election. So notice you vote in and then an election. An election, that's the noun form. She voted for Ahmed. So you vote for a person, you vote in an election. And of course, the verb is vote, so you conjugate that based on your subject. Ahmed is running for mayor. Notice you can run for a political position, in this case, mayor. You don't need an article here in front of mayor because mayor is considered a proper noun. You could also say Ahmed is a candidate for mayor, or Ahmed is campaigning for the position of mayor. You could add the position of, but you don't need to. So you could just say Ahmed is campaigning for mayor.
So nearly a third of these students voted in an election.
But they all just, for some reason, voted for the war.
And he starts running for mayor and doing really, really well in the polls.
It is just as illegal to make a foreign donation to a candidate for a mayor or a sheriff as it is for the presidency.
So let's say it's election night and all of the constituents voted for their party of choice, their person of choice, and guess what? Ahmed won the election, and it was a landslide victory. This means that Ahmed won by a large margin. So the margin means the number of votes for or against. In this case, a large margin could be 70% of the votes were for Ahmed and 30% were against him. You could also say a clear margin. Using that word clear, you could say it was a clear-cut victory. Nobody can say that the results aren't conclusive. 70-30, that's conclusive. Ahmed won. You could say it was an underdog victory. This means that nobody expected Ahmed to win. He was the underdog. You could also say it was an upset. An upset. This means that everyone expected someone else to win. It was an upset. But now let's say that Ahmed lost the election. We could also say it was an upset. But in this case, everyone expected Ahmed to win, but he didn't. We could say it was a narrow defeat. Or you could say it was a close call. This means that Ahmed lost, but by a small margin. So maybe it was 51-49. That would be the smallest margin possible. You could say it was a crushing defeat. This means Ahmed lost by a large margin. So 70% of people didn't vote for Ahmed, only 30% did. It was a crushing defeat. Keep in mind that you can use this vocabulary about winning and losing for sports, recruitment, or any competition.
Germany's leading far-right party suffered a narrow defeat in regional elections in one of its strongholds.
Well, what happened? It was a close call. I mean, things almost didn't work out.
King Ben-Hadad I attacks from around Damascus, what today would be known as Syria, forcing the North to retreat in crushing defeat.
Now let's talk about to impeach, a politician's nightmare. This is a verb, and it means to formally accuse a public official of a serious crime in connection with their job. Did you know that in history, 3 US presidents have been impeached? This means 3 US presidents have been accused of a serious crime related to their position. Can you name 1 out of the 3? Well, if you follow my Learn English with the News lessons, I'm sure you can. So put one of those names in the comments. So 3 have been impeached, accused, but 0 presidents have been forced to leave office. You could also say that 0 presidents have been removed from their position as a result of the impeachment. Now notice here, impeachment is the noun form. It's talking about the accusation as a noun. If a politician is forced to leave office or removed from their position, this means fired. But we only use that term in non-political positions. So in a non-political position, you would say Yevgenia was fired. She's an employee and the company or the boss fired her. But for political positions, you can say removed from office or forced to leave their position. So 3 US presidents have been impeached, 0 have been forced to leave office. But did you know that former President Richard Nixon, he stepped down, he resigned before he was officially impeached? For a non-political position, you would use the word quit, or you can use resigned, but quit is more common. Yevgenia quit.
3 presidents have been impeached: Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. Trump is likely to be the first to be impeached twice.
Whether they're removed from their position or if they're otherwise disciplined due to concerns about harassment, bullying, retaliation, or hostile working conditions.
Well, anyway, it got a lot better, and by the time I stepped down, we had the internet bubble running, at high speed. It was marvelous. I mean, we were awash in cash.
I just mentioned former President Richard Nixon. Let's review the word incumbent. This is a noun, and it's the current holder of a political office or position. The incumbent president, the current president, isn't running for re-election. That's a story I did a Learn English with the News on. So make sure you watch it. So subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's review to lobby. This is a verb and is to try to influence a politician or public official. The company spent millions on lobbying efforts. So in this case, it's being used as an adjective. It describes the efforts. The incumbent president, the current president, faced impeachment, accusations of a serious crime, here it's the noun form, for secretly meeting with lobbyists. So right here, the word is a noun. A lobbyist is someone who lobbies. How about this word, filibuster? Filibuster. Isn't that fun to say? Filibuster. Say it out loud. Filibuster. Do you know what this is? Well, it's both a verb and a noun, and it's a long speech that someone makes to delay or prevent a new law from being made. She filibustered the bill. So here it's a verb and it's in the past simple form. The filibuster, so here it's a noun, the filibuster lasted for over 10 hours. Remember, a long speech.
A filibuster?
And yes, it's a filibuster. The filibuster is on!
Now let's focus on everyday vocabulary using political news. Of course, Joe Biden is the president, but did you know that he quit the presidential race and he will end his term in January 2025? Now let's review the news article that discusses his decision to quit.
First, I'll read the headline. Inside Biden's historic decision to drop out of the 2024 race. So first, let's take a look at this phrasal verb because it's very important to understand the story. Now, you drop out of something. This means that you withdraw from, you leave. You officially and formally withdraw or leave. You drop out. So Biden is no longer running for presidency. He dropped out. We commonly use this with education as well. For example, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of, so notice you need this additional preposition of when you identify the location of university, of college, of his program, or you can also use it in a race or competition. Now, if you don't specify the location, you don't need to use the preposition of. Mark Zuckerberg went to Harvard, but he dropped out. I don't need to say of Harvard, of university, because I already set the context, so it's obvious. So you only include of if you use the race competition or school program. The meaning is the same to withdraw or leave. Just important, we don't use this for the workplace. If you leave your position permanently, you quit. You don't drop out. For example, I quit my job at Facebook because we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. So I permanently left my job and I voluntarily left. It was my decision to leave. Now, the past simple of the verb to quit is quit. Last week, I quit my job at Facebook. So you can use drop out for school programs, education programs, a race or competition, but you use the verb to quit when it comes to employment. Don't worry about taking these notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's continue with our lesson. U.S. President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign. So notice how they add re-election campaign because he had already been elected. He's currently president. So we add re in front of a verb when the action is again. So he's campaigning again. And notice that pronunciation. We have a strong E sound, a long E. Re-election. Re-election. Repeat after me. Re-election. You might be thinking right now, I'll need to re-watch this lesson. I'll need to watch this lesson again because you're learning so much. You need to re-watch it. And that's exactly what you should do. U.S. President Joe Biden has ended. Notice this is the present perfect because it's a completed past action. He ended it yesterday or 3 days ago. So it's a completed past action, but there's a result in the present. So now we will have a new candidate. So he has ended his re-election campaign and endorsed. Now, this is a mistake I see students make. If you have the same sentence and you have one action and you have a specific verb conjugation, the present perfect. If you have and, your next verb needs to have the same conjugation previously because you read this as two actions. President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign. Joe Biden has endorsed Vice President Kamala. But notice here, they didn't include the has. So if there's an auxiliary verb, you can drop it. But it's always correct to include the full verb. So if you're not sure, then just include the auxiliary verb. And has endorsed, when you endorse someone or something, it means you publicly support that someone or something. So if a celebrity endorses a product, they publicly support that product. They say, I really like this drink. For example, they endorse that drink. So Joe Biden has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him as the Democratic candidate. When someone succeeds someone else, it means that they take over that person's position or role. So Kamala Harris is taking over Joe Biden's role as Democratic candidate in an extraordinary decision that upends an already dramatic race for the White House. Upend, this is a verb, upend, repeat after me, upend. That means to drastically change or disrupt. So it has more of a negative feel to it. Now, the verb is conjugated in the subject because it has an S here. So it's conjugated in the present simple third person singular and is conjugated with in an extraordinary decision. So a decision, it upends an already dramatic race. You can use this in many situations, most likely at work, but also in your personal life as well. You might say the PM quit. PM is short for project manager, is a common acronym. The PM quit, remember, quit, permanently left the position, but it was also a voluntary decision. The PM said, I quit. The PM quit and it completely upended our project timeline. It disrupted or dramatically changed our project timeline. Now remember, upend is a verb. So here I have it in the past simple, upended. Because it's in an ED, you need that id at the end. Upended. Repeat after me, upended. Very good. Mr. Biden, 81. This is his age. Rather than saying who is 81, you can just put the number here with 2 commas. Mr. Biden, 81, said in a Sunday written statement that it was the greatest honor to serve, but his withdrawal. So notice this is the noun form. Before we saw to withdraw, that is the verb, but withdrawal, repeat after me, withdrawal. His withdrawal, this is the noun. There is a noun form for the verb withdraw, which is withdrawal. Now, if that isn't the case, for example, the verb drop out, you can just take that verb and put it in the ing, but have a possessive, his dropping out. Or we can use the verb to withdraw, his withdrawing, but his withdrawal, the noun form. But here we're treating this as a noun. But his dropping out was in the best interest of my party and the country. Notice that some words have quotations around it. It means that these 2 words were in the written statement and they're directly quoted. So Joe Biden said the 2 words greatest honor. He also said, in the best interest of my party and the country. So he said these words directly in the written statement. The other words, he did not say directly in the written statement. So that's how we know as the reader that these words are coming directly from Joe Biden. Let's practice this sentence structure. In the best interest of someone or something. And notice the sentence begins with something to be in the best interest of something or someone. So it's always important to understand the full sentence structure so you know how to confidently use these expressions. So here you can say it's in the best interest of. We always use interest in singular. So it doesn't matter if the noun is plural. This is an idiomatic expression, in the best interest of someone or something. It's in the best interest of my students, you, to subscribe, to subscribe to my channel. So make sure you subscribe right now. And why is it in your best interest? Because my channel will help you improve your English for free. So make sure you subscribe. Now, you could also say it's in your best interest if you are talking to one person or a group and you want to address them more personally. It's in your best interest to subscribe. Of course, you can change the verb to whatever you want, but notice here we have the infinitive. You can also start with a gerund expression. So in this case, I can say subscribing. In the article, it's withdrawing, dropping out. In this case, subscribing is in the best interest of. So this is your idiom that you need to remember. To be is in the best interest of, and then someone or something, my students. If you agree that it's in your best interest to subscribe or students' best interest to subscribe, then put that's right in the comments below. And notice there are 3 different ways to communicate this one idea. This is often the case in English. Get comfortable with one, practice it, and then when you're comfortable with it, you can practice other structures as well. But don't feel like you need to learn all these different ways at the same time. Just take it one step at a time. And that's why I'm here to help you. So again, put that's right in the comments. The announcement that Joe Biden has dropped out, we can use the present perfect because it's a completed past action with a result in the present. The announcement caps a tumultuous period in U.S. politics. The verb to cap means to conclude. The announcement concludes a tumultuous. Repeat after me. Tumultuous. Tumultuous. A tumultuous period. Tumultuous is an adjective. It means full of confusion, change, or uncertainty. So it's describing the period, this time in U.S. politics. It's a tumultuous period, which began with his sometimes incoherent debate performance against Donald Trump on June 27th. Incoherent means not clear or sensible. So you could say her explanation was incoherent. Hopefully you're not thinking that this lesson is incoherent. It's not clear to you, or my explanations aren't sensible. They're not easy to understand. I explain tumultuous in such a confusing way that to you, it's incoherent. So I know many of my students might think, well, my English is incoherent, but we don't generally use this because someone might make a mistake. It's because I did such a bad job of explaining the word tumultuous. It's a simple explanation, but I explained it in a very complicated way, a very ineffective way. You could describe my explanation as incoherent, which would be frustrating for you. Now, we also use this if people are in a really difficult emotional situation. So I might be so upset that I tried to explain something to you, but it's incoherent. My words aren't coming out clearly or sensibly because I'm so upset. She was so upset that she was incoherent. Now, they're saying that his debate performance was sometimes incoherent. So sometimes he was not clear or sensible. Mr. Biden says he will remain president until January. Remember, he is currently president, but currently there is also an election for the next president. He was a candidate for that election to be the next president, but he has dropped out. So now he is no longer the candidate for the next president, but he is the current president, which will be until January. Ms. Harris, 59. So remember, this is how we state someone's age rather than saying who is 59. Just Ms. Harris, comma, 59, comma, said that she was honored to be endorsed. Remember what endorsed means? Publicly supported. Now here, to be endorsed, because she's receiving the endorsement. So it's passive. Ms. Harris was endorsed by Joe Biden. That's the passive. Joe Biden endorsed Ms. Harris. So that's the active. So that's why here we have to be endorsed. I wrote the passive and the active there for you to see. Adding, she would earn and win this nomination. Because remember, they're still in process of nominating candidates for president. So she has to earn and win this nomination. While Ms. Harris has been picking up endorsements. So here, to pick up endorsements, it means receiving endorsements from many big figures in the party. So big figures, this represents prominent people. She's a big figure. She's a prominent person. Notice here they use the word endorsements. Endorsements in the plural. This is the noun form. So if you endorse someone, it means you publicly support them, and then an endorsement is seeing it as a something, the public support, the endorsement. So you might ask someone, can I have your endorsement? That's the same thing as, can you endorse me? So you can use the noun or the verb, but the sentence structure would change. I wrote those two examples, one with the noun form and one with the verb form. Now, although we use endorsement a lot in a competition to say you support one person in a competition, you can also use it just to say you support someone. You support me and my channel and this YouTube video, and you can endorse me. You can show your endorsement by liking this video, subscribing, sharing it with your friends. So if you endorse me, can you endorse me? Can I have your endorsement? Put absolutely in the chat to say you publicly support me, and I would greatly appreciate that. So please, can I have your endorsement? Put absolutely in the chat if you're willing to give me your endorsement. And thank you very much. I take that seriously. She is yet to be officially nominated. So notice how they have, she is yet to be officially nominated. There's another common sentence structure for this. You can say, she hasn't been officially nominated yet. But it's very common to say she is yet to be officially nominated. And that the official nomination, and that may not happen until the Democratic National Convention in August. In the wake of Mr. Biden's decision, what's his decision? To drop out, right? To drop out of the race, or if you don't specify the something, just to drop out. Mr. Trump declared the president was not fit to run and is certainly not fit to serve. In the wake of, so if you use this expression, you have to use it correctly. You need in the wake of, and then something. In this case, Mr. Biden's decision. And this means following his decision or as a result of his decision. But remember, in the wake of, in the wake of. Repeat after me, in the wake of. In the wake of Mr. Biden's decision, so after, following, Mr. Trump declared. Now, it's important to understand alternatives. For example, declare is an alternative to the verb say. But to declare means to say something firmly or publicly. So he didn't just say it, he declared it, which sounds stronger. He said it firmly. Mr. Trump said firmly, the president, Joe Biden, was not fit to run. In this case, to run means to run for future presidency, because you run for a public position, which means you want that position. You are officially a candidate for that position. So that's what this to run means. It means to run for president, the next president. And here, not fit to run for president, not fit to serve as president, his current role as president. If you're not fit to do something, it means that you're not suitable or it's not appropriate for whatever reason. So you hear this a lot in a workplace environment. She's very experienced, but she's not a good fit. Notice here, I use the noun form. She's not a fit, and then an adjective is a good fit. If I use the verb form, I would say, but she's not fit for this position. Not fit for this position. So it means that the position is just not suitable for her. It's not appropriate for her. Maybe she doesn't have the specific skills or personality needed. So hopefully you think that I'm fit to be your English teacher. I'm suitable and appropriate. Hopefully you think that because you already gave me your endorsement, right? Hopefully you did by saying absolutely in the comments. Other senior Republicans joined him being Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a Republican. Other senior Republicans joined him in their criticism, the Republican Party's criticism, and called on Mr. Biden to leave the White House immediately. So remember, he's currently president. So they're saying he should leave the White House. He should no longer be president, not just the Democratic candidacy. So he said, I'm not going to run for future president, but the Republicans are saying he should leave immediately. Immediately means right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not in January, right now. And here called on, so the Republicans called on Mr. Biden to leave the White House immediately. So it means they formally or publicly demanded that he leave the White House, that he say, I will no longer be president. Mr. Biden had faced intense scrutiny since his debate performance in June. Less than 2 weeks ago, he hosted a high-profile summit with NATO leaders in Washington. The occasion being the high-profile summit with NATO leaders in Washington. All of this is represented as the occasion. The occasion, the event, you could say as well. The occasion did little to calm nerves. So notice this pronunciation. The L is silent. It's calm, calm. Did little to calm nerves means that the something, in this case, the occasion, the event, didn't reduce anxiety, tension, nervousness. All of that would be nerves. So to calm nerves means to reduce anxiety, tension, nervousness, or other similar negative emotions. But in this case, the event didn't do it. It did little to calm nerves. Within his own party, with him mistakenly introducing Ukrainian President Zelensky as President Putin, and appearing to refer to Ms. Harris as Vice President Trump. So these are two examples as to why the occasion did little to calm nerves. The focus will now be on the party's national convention, which is scheduled to start on August 19th. Remember to always pay attention to your prepositions because they're specific to verbs or idioms or sentence structure. In this case, with the verb, or in this case, noun, the focus. This is a noun form, the focus, but you can use it as a verb to focus. You need to focus on your sentence structure. The focus of this lesson is on sentence structure. So you need that preposition on, and notice you can use focus as a noun and a verb. I wrote those two examples. Today, we'll focus on sentence structure. And this is at the end of our lesson, so I could put this in the past simple. Today, we focused with a soft T. We focused on sentence structure. Yes, we did. And to use it as a noun form, the focus of this lesson is on sentence structure. Again, because I'm sharing this at the very end of the lesson, I could change my verb to the past simple. The focus, this should be of. The focus of this lesson was on sentence structure. So you could have these in the future, present simple, or the past. Just remember to change your verb tense depending on the time reference, and don't forget to look at sentence structure and look at prepositions. And that is the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. Inside Biden's historic decision to drop out of the 2024 race. U.S. President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him as the Democratic candidate in an extraordinary decision that upends an already dramatic race for the White House. Mr. Biden, 81, said in a Sunday written statement that it was the greatest honor to serve, but his withdrawal was in the best interest of my party and the country. The announcement caps a tumultuous period in U.S. politics, which began with his sometimes incoherent debate performance against Donald Trump on June 27th. Mr. Biden says he will remain president until January. Ms. Harris, 59, said that she was honored to be endorsed, adding she would earn and win this nomination. While Ms. Harris has been picking up endorsements from many big figures in the party, she is yet to be officially nominated, and that may not happen until the Democratic National Convention in August. In the wake of Mr. Biden's decision, Mr. Trump declared the president was not fit to run and is certainly not fit to serve. Other senior Republicans joined him in their criticism and called on Mr. Biden to leave the White House immediately, not just the Democratic candidacy. Mr. Biden had faced intense scrutiny since his last debate performance in June. Less than 2 weeks ago, he hosted a high-profile summit with NATO leaders in Washington. The occasion did little to calm nerves within his own party, with him mistakenly introducing Ukrainian President Zelensky as President Putin, and appearing to refer to Ms. Harris as Vice President Trump. The focus will now be on the party's national convention, which is scheduled to start on August 19th.
Now let's keep going and focus on news headlines that discuss the debate that took place between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Now let's review our first headline. This might be a little small depending what device you're using, but don't worry because I have it bigger on the next slide, which I'll share with you. But let me read this to you. And I want you to let me know in the comments. If you're watching live, that's awesome. And if you're watching the replay still, I want you to let me know in the comments which words you don't understand. Is there anything about the grammar, or maybe you're not sure about pronunciation? Let me know what you want to review in the comments. And I've chosen some vocabulary that I think will be very helpful for you to add to your speech. So the headline is Harris. Harris is, of course, Kamala Harris, one of the candidates for president, and she will be participating in the presidential debate, which takes place tonight, September 10th. Harris relents on muting debate microphones. This text is quite small. Don't worry, I'll show it to you larger. The vice president, who is Kamala Harris, the vice president made an unsuccessful push to have Donald Trump's microphone left on when it wasn't the former president's turn to speak. Okay, so let me know which words you don't understand, what doesn't make sense to you, what confuses you, and we'll review this together. Now, I am very happy that Meerkat Lover 2004 wants to know what relents means, because I knew, I had an idea. I figured my students wouldn't know what relents means. So let's review that. Okay. So this is the first choice here. Harris relents on muting debate microphones. Now, another student wants to know, what does the word Harris mean? This is very important. The name of this woman is Kamala Harris. Harris is her last name, just like my name is Jennifer Forrest. But in news headlines, often they just use the last name. So if someone was talking about me, they would say Forrest, but her last name is Harris. Okay, so let's talk about relents. Now, to relent, this is a verb. So notice that conjugation. It's in what verb tense? What verb tense is this, everyone? Harris relents. What verb tense? You can put it in the comments. To relent on something, this is a verb, and it means to finally agree to do something or accept something, but that you have been resisting or opposing. So basically, this means at first you said, no, I'm not doing it. But then you relent and you say, okay, fine, I'll do it. So you change your stance, you change your opinion, you change what you agreed to or accepted. For example, I told my kids they can't watch the debate. So I said, no, for whatever reason, it's too late, or I don't want them, it's too mature or adult for them. I don't want them watching it. So I told my kids they can't watch the debate. But in the end, I relented. Which means I change my opinion. I change my mind. I change what I said. So it means my kids can watch the debate because I relented. Remember, this is a verb, so you need to conjugate it. And who knew what Harris relents? What's that verb tense? We have some answers here. Lugio said present simple. Exactly. Roosevelt, present simple, third person. Exactly, because Harris represents Kamala Harris, a woman. She relents. And don't forget, you have to add that S on third person singular. And Pete said, give in. Exactly. Relent is another way of saying give in. I gave in. So it means I finally said yes to something I originally said no to, or the opposite. I say no, but I originally said yes. Vasily wants to know what muting means. Okay, so if I mute my microphone, That would be if my microphone were muted. It means the sound of my microphone is turned off. You cannot hear it. So this means that originally Kamala Harris wanted the microphones to be muted, but then she relented. She changed her opinion. Okay. Now let's move on. What other words don't you understand from this? Let's review it. Oh, and of course, if you're liking this lesson, well, then hit like, subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson, a live lesson, or a regular lesson, and put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes. So I know you like this style of lesson because I want to make sure I'm creating lessons that are helping you. So let me know if you like this lesson. Okay, so our next, we know Harris relents on muting debate microphones. So notice you relent on doing something. You need that gerund verb after on because on is a preposition. The vice president, who is Kamala Harris, the vice president, Kamala Harris, made an unsuccessful push to have Donald Trump's microphone left on. If the microphone is left on, it means you can hear the sound from the microphone when it wasn't the former president's turn to speak. So let's review push to have. But notice here, it's a noun because you have a push to have, an unsuccessful push to have. So push in this context is a noun, a push, but this is commonly used in the verb form, to push, to do something. When you push to do something, you make a strong effort or attempt to achieve or influence something. So you might push to have live lessons every day. How could you do that? Well, you constantly send me an email saying, Jennifer, you should have a live lesson every day. So by you trying to influence my decision, you're pushing. You're pushing to have a live lesson every day. Now, let's look at this example. I pushed to watch the debate because remember, my kids, I said, no, you can't watch the debate. So this could be my child saying, I pushed to watch the debate. So the child could say, please, please, but I really want to. It's important for me to learn this information. Please, please. So it's trying to influence me to achieve this. Now, you could also say, I pushed someone. I pushed my mom to let me watch the debate. I pushed Jennifer to post live lessons every day. So you can push or push someone to do something. Yusuf said, and everyone comment using these examples. This is the best way to practice so you permanently remember this information. And I am happy to give you feedback as well to as many students as I can. I push myself to dedicate my time to learn more from you. Well, that's very nice. So you push yourself, you encourage yourself, you influence yourself, you push yourself. Rakib said, I push myself to speak because remember, you need the infinitive to do something. I push myself to speak English every day. That is an excellent example. Great job, Rakib. Keep doing it. Okay, so let's keep going, everyone. And we have a different headline. So here on the left, we have Kamala Harris, who is currently the vice president of the United States. Remember, it's the United States. It's an exception. Countries don't have articles. Canada, France, Germany, but the United States. You need that article. And then, of course, on the right, we have former President Donald Trump. And tonight, September 10th, they are having a debate. Okay, so this headline reads, No Hot Mic Moments. What else to know about the Harris versus? This V with a period represents versus Trump debate. So Harris versus Trump, Harris against Trump. Here's where the saga on microphone muting landed. We're actually going to look at this small font below, but if there's something you don't understand in this headline, let me know and I will answer that for you. Okay. Before we move on, I really like this example from Theophil. Parents push their children. It's just their children, no S, their children, because there is already for plural, their children to study hard. Exactly. And I push my students to learn more advanced vocabulary, but I do it in a way to help you because I teach it to you fully and I'm here to support you. Very nice examples, everyone. I love it. Okay, so here's where the saga on microphone muting landed. Do you know what a saga is? This is used a lot in books, movies. You might think of Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or Harry Potter. You could consider that a saga. A saga, this is a noun. You can identify nouns because they have an article. In the headline, it's the saga. But here I just wrote a saga because a means any and the is a specific saga. A saga, notice that pronunciation. I've said it many, many times. A saga is a long, complicated, and often dramatic series of events or stories. And that's why I referenced the three that I know of, the longest, most complicated and dramatic stories: Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars. Which saga are you familiar with? There are, of course, many, many, many more. Which saga are you familiar with? But you can use this in your day-to-day life. For example, the renovation project turned into a saga. So it was supposed to be simple. They were just going to redo their counters. So the counter is where you put your plates, you put your cutting board. It's the surface in your kitchen. So it was supposed to be simple, but then it turned into a saga. Turn into means became. It became a saga. It became long, complicated, dramatic. Maybe there were a lot of problems, a lot of issues. It was a lot more expensive than they expected. It took a lot more time than they expected. It turned into a saga. Or this is often used in the media. The media followed their legal saga for weeks. So there might be a celebrity couple and they're getting divorced, but it's a long, complicated, dramatic divorce. You can refer to the divorce as a saga. Okay, Muhammad said their relationship turned into a saga. Exactly. But remember, Muhammad, it's turn into. So you need that preposition into, and then you have to conjugate your verb turn. So this would be in the past simple. Their relationship turned into a saga. Okay. Someone asked about what a hot mic is. Yes. Okay. So, first of all, a mic is short form for microphone. Native speakers, we like to take long words and shorten them. For example, most native speakers don't actually say renovation, we say reno. We don't say microphone, we say mic. This is a mic. It's a very good quality mic because I want you to have a great experience listening to my lessons. So hopefully you think the quality of the sound is very good because of this mic. Now, a hot mic, this is not important vocabulary for you in your day-to-day speech, but just to understand the headline, a hot mic is an active mic. So right now, my mic is hot. This is important because imagine at the beginning of a debate and I'm talking to someone beside me, but I didn't know my mic was hot. I didn't know my mic was active. was turned on. The audience can hear what I'm saying, but I didn't know they could hear what I was saying. So a hot mic is just an active mic. A muted mic means there's no sound, it's on mute. Okay, excellent questions, everyone. Now you know what a saga is. So let's keep going because let's look at the word landed. This is very commonly used, but look at the sentence structure where something, in this case, where the saga on microphone muting, all of that represents something. So where something or where someone landed. So the word landed means to reach a particular point or conclusion. For example, in a business context, you could say, where did the board of directors, which native speakers shorten to just the word board, where did the board land on the salary increases? Because grammatically, you land on something. So in this case, the something is salary increases. This is basically asking, what did the board decide? What was their final conclusion about the salary increases? What was their decision? What was their position? Where did they land? You can absolutely use this in a everyday social situation. For example, my friend could ask me, imagining I'm a child, my friend could ask me, where did your parents land on the debate? So, what did your parents decide? What was their final decision? Where did your parents land? They said I can't watch the debate. Or my parents relented so I can watch the debate. They originally said no, but then they changed their opinion. They relented. Okay. So maybe remember you wanted to push me to post live lessons every day. So you might ask a fellow student, where did Jennifer land? Where did Jennifer land on the live lesson? Is she going to post them daily? Yes or no? What was her decision? All right, everyone. And exactly, Roosevelt. Mic is short for microphone. Okay. And Hafiz, the Twilight Saga. Absolutely. That is a great example of a saga. Very nice. All right, everyone. Manuel asks, landed the conversation. It is over, land it. Yeah, you could say we landed the conversation. We reached a particular point or conclusion, but you could ask, where did the conversation land? So, what was the final result or conclusion of it? Did you reach a consensus, an opinion, a decision? For example, where did the conversation land? How did the conversation land? You could ask that as well. All right, everyone. Excellent job. Now let's continue on. We have a new headline. Do you recognize the man on the right? Who knows the man on the right? It's Elon Musk, of course. And the man on the left is former President Donald Trump, who will be taking part in the debate tonight, the presidential debate, tonight being September 10th, depending on when you watch this lesson. Okay. Mohammed said today Trump's debate will turn into, don't forget that turn into a saga. That's a great example and is possible. The debate could turn into a saga. It could turn into a long, complicated, dramatic story or event rather than just a debate. That's absolutely possible. Okay, great example, everyone. Now, everyone knows it's Elon Musk. Very good. So let's read this headline together. This is from Technology Magazine. Tech futurists. Do you know what the word tech is? Anyone know? Tech? Tech futurists hash out Harris versus Trump. Notice here there's a VS period before we just saw a V. Both of them are short form for versus. You can just have the V or the VS. They're both acceptable short forms. Versus Harris versus Trump, Harris against Trump. And the small text, which we call the subtext, says at a conference in San Francisco Thursday, tech wonks aired out their unease about the upcoming election. Okay. So Roosevelt said, tech is a short word for technology. Exactly. And my smart students, everybody knows this already. Well, then I didn't need to teach this to you because this is my first point, but I just wanted to make sure everyone knew. So technology, tech. Notice that K sound, tech, tech. So it's very common to just say, I work in high tech. I need tech support. I bought some new tech. Native speakers just use the word tech. But my smart students, you already know this. Everybody knows this. Awesome. Okay, so Rakib wants to know the meaning of hash out. And I saw some other students who also wanted to know that. And don't worry, because that's my next word for you. So tech futurists. Hash out. So to hash out, this is a phrasal verb. The main verb is hash, and then the preposition is out. So you would conjugate the verb hash. This means to discuss something thoroughly. And it's usually because you want to reach an agreement or find a solution. So you might say, let's hash out the details of the contract before we sign it. So absolutely, Svetlana means discuss, but just remember it sounds like to discuss very thoroughly. Thoroughly means completely 100% in depth. And also, the point is to reach an agreement or find a solution. So here they want to reach an agreement on the details of the contract and they want to hash it out. So discuss it thoroughly in detail. All right. And re-ask, yeah, docs, exactly. This is another great example of a shortened word in English. Docs is short for documents, but because it's plural, we keep that S. You could also say the doc. I sent you the doc. I sent you a doc, and it's singular, but I sent you the doc, the docs, the docs. Okay, so that's plural. Great example. And Farshad, exactly, to hash out, to discuss thoroughly, to discuss thoroughly. So in an everyday context, you and your friends, your family, you could hash out your vacation plans. It just means you discuss them thoroughly, but you want to reach a decision. So you want to decide, where are we going? How are we getting there? What are we going to do? Okay, excellent job, everyone. Oh, Yusuf asked about unease, and we will talk about that. I have that highlighted as well. So just 1 second, and then we'll talk about that. Okay. And we will also talk about wonks and aired out. Don't worry. I know what words you won't understand. All right. Let's move on. What do we have? Tech wonks. Do you know what a wonk is? That's a weird word. Repeat after me. Wonk, wonk, wonks, 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 because it's in the plural. A wonk, this is a noun. This is a person who likes to think about or study something, but who spends a great amount of time doing it. So I understand you like studying English, you like studying English grammar, but to qualify as a wonk, it would mean you spend a great amount of time, far more time than the average student. So you have to study it 10 times more than the average student to be considered a wonk. But for example, he's a grammar wonk and we'll talk about verb conjugations for hours. So, yes, you enjoy learning about English grammar, but do you spend 10 times more time than the average student? Do you obsess about it and think about it and want to talk about it all the time? So, don't call yourself a wonk simply because you like thinking about or studying certain topics. You have to really be obsessed with those topics and spend the majority of your time on those topics to be considered a wonk. So, what about you? Would you consider yourself a wonk? Remember, you have to be obsessed, spend way more time than the average student. It's okay if you're not a wonk. I don't think you need to be a wonk to get amazing results or to become fluent. Okay, so let's move on and talk about aired out. So, to air something out, in this case, the something is their unease about the upcoming election. That's the something. To air something out, this is a phrasal verb. The verb is air. The verb is air. Let me repeat that. The verb is air, and then the preposition is out. So you have to conjugate the verb air. As you see it here, it's in the past. Now, this means to bring issues, thoughts, or feelings into the open for discussion. But generally, these are thoughts, issues, and feelings that you don't share with the average person. So, for example, we went to couples therapy to air out our issues. So, my partner and I, we wanted to share our feelings, but we wanted to do that in a safe way. So, when you air out your feelings with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your husband, your wife, your best friend, you tell them how you truly feel, your true emotions for the purpose of discussing them. So we often use this when there is some negativity involved, when there's upset feelings involved. So that's why it's with unease, because unease means it's more of a negative. So let's look at that. Unease. Now, notice here, this is a noun because it's one's unease, their unease. There is the possessive, but unease is a noun, and it's feelings of discomfort, anxiety, or worry. So, elections often produce unease in society. Elections often result in, create feelings of discomfort, anxiety, or worry because it's a big change. An election is a big change, and change means uncertainty and it creates unease. But you may be more familiar with the adjective. I feel uneasy. So, uneasy is the adjective, unease is the noun. I feel uneasy about my exam. So, if you say this, I feel uneasy about my exam, it means you have feelings of discomfort, anxiety, or worry, which is absolutely a normal feeling to have when you're taking an exam or going to a job interview or you're speaking in public. So don't worry if you feel uneasy or you have unease. You have unease. Just remember, unease is a noun and uneasy is an adjective. So different structures, different grammatical structures, but the meaning is the same. All right. Here's a great example. She's a wonk music, but you want to change the order. So it's the something and then a wonk. She's a music wonk. I'm a grammar wonk. She's a music wonk and sings songs all the time. Exactly. Now, because it's she, you need to add that S to sing. She sings because she in third person singular, you need to add that S. But excellent example. That's a great example. She's a music wonk. The average person listens to 30 minutes of music per day. I made that up. I have no idea if that is true. But let's say the average person listens to 30 minutes of music per day. She listens to 5 hours of music per day. She's a music wonk. All right. Kumari said, I have unease or I feel unease about speaking to people. So unease is a noun. So you have a subject I, but you need a verb. So you can have this noun, you can feel this noun. I have unease about speaking to people. And that's totally normal. Just don't let your unease prevent you from taking action. Okay. Raymond said, when you feel uneasy, exactly the adjective. When you feel uneasy, it's good to have someone to air out. Yes, exactly. To talk. This is such a great example, Raymond, to talk about your feelings of discomfort, feelings that normally you don't discuss with people. Excellent example. Really nicely said. Yeah, Svetlana, you can absolutely say, I feel uneasy, because that's the adjective. I feel uneasy about speaking to people. Exactly. Very nice. Abdurazak said, I am a wonk to learn English. Very nice. Now, you might say, I am an English wonk. So have the noun and then just add wonk. So I'm an English wonk. So wonk is your noun. Excuse me. Wonk is your noun, and then English can form or can function as the adjective to describe what type of wonk. I'm an English wonk. I'm a music wonk. I'm a movie wonk. I'm a tech wonk. I'm a finance wonk. So you would have this topic, the subject, and then add the word wonk. Very nice. Muadisa said, I feel uneasy. Exactly. I feel uncomfortable, feelings of discomfort. I feel uneasy when anyone asks me too many personal questions. Exactly. Excellent, excellent example. Really nice. Okay. Air out could be, it's not exactly the same as to vent, but they're closely related, but they're not exactly the same, but they are closely related. Yes. I am a YouTube wonk. Exactly. Excellent job. Very nice. Okay. Let's continue to our next headline. So, Harris, remember, this woman in the picture is Kamala Harris. Harris is her last name. She's currently the vice president and she is running for president, which means she wants to become president. Tonight, September 10th, there is a debate, a presidential debate, and the election is in November. Harris hires rural vote director in bid to cut into Trump's battleground margins. Rural voters in just a handful of states could swing the outcome of the November elections. Okay, which words don't you understand? Which words would you like to review in more detail? Well, let's see which ones I chose for you and then put what other words you want in the comments. Okay, the first word I chose for you is hire. I think you already know this word, but I want to just quickly touch on the sentence structure. So to hire someone, So hire is the verb. That's why you have the S here, because it's in the present simple. This means to give someone a job. The company hired me. You hire someone. Hire is the verb. In this case, it's the past simple. The company hired me because of my impressive communication skills, because I'm an English wonk. Remember? Okay, now the other way this is commonly used is to use the structure to be hired. I was hired. I was hired, which means someone gave you a job. You received a job. So just remember that important distinction there. Okay, bid. Everybody wants to talk about bid. Oh, wow. And don't worry, because we are going to talk about bid, and we are going to talk about cut into. Okay, so let's look at our next one. In a bid to. So when you see a word like bid, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is the expression? Am I just looking at the word bid, or is this an expression that requires other grammar to go with it? Because we need in a bid to do something. Now, in the headline, there is no article, because in news headlines, they omit articles, because the purpose of a headline is to be as short as possible. And articles, the word "a," is only there for grammar. It doesn't have any meaning, and native speakers understand it without the article. But grammatically, it is required. Okay, so it's in a bid to do something. Bid in this case means attempt. So you can say in an attempt or in an effort to do or achieve something. So, for example, the company launched, which means they made public for the first time. The company launched a new product in a bid to increase its market share. So, in an attempt to, in order to do this, basically, okay, in a bid to. But this is a formal or technical word choice. You can absolutely use this in a more professional context if you're talking to your colleagues in a professional way. And you will hear this a lot in the media, specifically in a professional or more formal context. But for you, in your everyday speech, you would say, I'm improving my English to get hired, which means in order to get hired. You would not say, I'm improving my English in a bid to get hired. That sounds unnatural, because in a bid to is only used in a more formal or technical way. So make sure for your everyday use, you simply say, I'm improving my English to get hired. You can say in order to get hired, but native speakers generally don't use in order. We just say, I'm improving my English to get. So the infinitive, to get hired, to get a job, to get a promotion, to pass my IELTS, to move to an English speaking country. So you can complete the sentence. I'm improving my English. Give me an infinitive after that to practice this. I'm improving my English. Give me an infinitive. All right. Now, let's move on to our next one. Cut into. Some students wanted to know about this. To cut into, this means to reduce or to encroach. You probably don't know what the word encroach means. It means to slowly take control or possession. The easiest way to imagine this is, let's say I have a garden right here, and there are weeds on the outside of the garden, okay? But the weeds are encroaching. They're encroaching on my garden. So the weeds are getting closer, and then they're taking over my garden. And soon, if I don't do anything, my whole garden will be weeds, because the weeds encroached on my garden. So the word encroach is commonly used even in a day-to-day speech. If I'm sharing a desk with someone, and then all of a sudden All these papers are from the other person, but they're on my side of the desk. I could say your things are encroaching on my space. So you brothers and sisters, siblings, roommates will commonly use this to talk about someone trying to take over their space with their own things. Okay. Now, but cut into is the same as to encroach or to reduce. So remember before we talked about a renovation, a reno. This renovation is cutting into our vacation fund. So you have this vacation fund, an amount of money for a vacation, but you have to take some of that money to pay for your renovation because remember, it turned into a saga. So that renovation is cutting into, it's reducing your vacation fund. So that's what cut into. So Kamala Harris she offers a job to a rural vote director. This is a job title. A vote director is someone who just controls that part of the campaign. Rural means in the countryside. It's the opposite of the city, an urban area, a rural area. Rural is where there are lots of farms, big properties, less people. So Kamala Harris gives a job to someone with the job title rural vote director in an attempt to reduce, in a bid to reduce Trump's battleground margins. A margin, which I don't have here, a margin is just how much. So there's the vote, okay? There's the population. If Trump controls 50% of the vote, that's his margin. So it's the amount that is given to Donald Trump, the percentage, the share, the amount. So Kamala wants to get some of that margin. She wants to reduce it, cut into it, so she has more for herself. Yeah, exactly. It's a share. Yeah, it's a share, a percentage, an allocation. Okay. So let's look at a handful of, because this is more common every day that you can use in your speech. I don't think, well, like I said, in a bid to is just formal, but you can use in order to. So a handful of, this is a small number or a few of something. So you might say, I made a handful of mistakes. It's another way of saying I made a few mistakes, a small number of mistakes. Or I could be reviewing a CV, a resume, and I could say there were a handful of mistakes, grammar mistakes on this CV. But just remember, just because a handful is small, it still can be too many. So when I say there were a handful of mistakes on this CV, that could be a very negative thing, even though handful is small. So it really depends on context if a handful of something is a positive thing or a negative thing. It just depends on context. Okay. Kumari said, my sister is encroaching on my table, please. Exactly. So you have your table, but then all of a sudden, your sister's water bottle is on your table. Your sister's cell phone is on your table. She's encroaching on your table. Good example. Good example. Okay. So let's look at swing. This is very commonly used in a political sense, but we'll review some examples where it isn't used in a political sense. So to swing the outcome or the results, swing is a verb. This means to influence or change. So rural voters, voters who live in non-urban areas, non-city areas, rural voters in just a handful, a small number of states could change the outcome or influence the outcome of the election. Now, in a sports context, the player's injury could swing the game. So the player hurt her arm, so now she can't play. That can swing the game because without that player, the team is not very good. So the team will lose. So the player's injury changed the game, it impacted the game. So could swing the game. Or her decision to change the recipe swung the results of the baking contest in her favor. So it changed, it influenced the results in her favor, which means positive to her. Now, notice swung is the past simple of swing. Swing, swung. Okay. Kumari said, I have a handful of chocolates. Exactly. I have a handful. So a small number of, because you can only fit a small number of chocolates in your hand, right? Yusuf said, I decide to be English wonk to swing my English fluency. Exactly. To influence, to change your English fluency. Very nicely said.
Now let's focus on your listening skills of fast English. We're going to listen to a clip of President Barack Obama giving a speech on a serious topic. But at the end of this speech, he makes a joke. And your English is excellent if you can understand these clips and the joke. But don't worry if this exercise is difficult for you, because as we go on, you're going to improve your listening skills, expand your vocabulary, improve your pronunciation, and practice speaking. Throughout this lesson, you're going to listen to a short clip of President Barack Obama speaking in a real world setting, and you need to complete the missing words to complete the sentence. Now you'll hear each clip 3 times. Here's the first listening exercise. You need to complete the missing words. Let's listen 3 times.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense.
Did you complete the sentence? He said, I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. Now let's take a look at I've. This is a contraction of I have. So we say it as one word, I've. And it's a very unstressed pronunciation. Repeat after me, I've. I've ordered. So notice this ED here is just a soft D. Ordered. Ordered. Repeat after me, ordered. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate. Now here, a lot of native speakers will pronounce to when it's a preposition or part of the infinitive like it is here as a very unstressed to eliminate, to eliminate. Repeat after me, to eliminate. But Barack Obama does not do that here. He pronounces the full to. So to is the standard pronunciation and ta is the unstressed pronunciation that's commonly used by natives in natural speech, which is why it can be difficult for you to understand us. Now let's look at don't make sense, because he didn't pronounce those final voiced sounds, specifically the T, don't. Notice he didn't say don't, he just said don't. And then make, you didn't hear that k, it was just make. And that makes the pronunciation smoother, which is why it sounds like we're talking very fast. Now, let's move on and talk about the word eliminate. Grammatically, you use eliminate plus a noun or a gerund because you eliminate something. And this means to completely remove or get rid of. Remember this. It might help you in the future of this lesson, get rid of. So for example, we eliminated plastic bags. This is the something, the noun. If you wanted to use a verb, remember it's the gerund. We eliminated using plastic bags. Or you might say, Jennifer helps me eliminate my mistakes, the noun. Or you could say, these lessons help me eliminate my mistakes. Again, the noun. So do you agree with that? If you do, put that's right in the comments. Now let's continue on with the speech. So you need to complete the missing word. You'll hear it 3 times.
We've already announced over 500 reforms. We've already announced over 500 reforms. We've already announced over 500 reforms.
How'd you do with this one? He said, we've already announced over 500 reforms. So notice another contraction. We've is a contraction of we have. Repeat after me, we've. We've already announced. We have already announced. What's the grammar here? What verb tense is this? It's the present perfect. And it's being used because this is a completed past action. The 500 reforms, that's complete, that's done. But this is an ongoing time reference. So it's possible to announce more reforms. At 500, it can increase and be 505 or 510 in the future because it's ongoing. Now let's talk about the word over. Over 500 reforms. So how many reforms? Well, we know it was more than 500. But we don't know the exact amount because when you say over or more than 500, it might be 501 or it might be 525. We don't know because it's unspecified, but it's more than over 500. Let's keep going. You need to complete the missing words. You'll hear it 3 times.
And just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. And just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. And just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years.
Did you complete the sentence? He said, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. Let's talk about a fraction of them. A fraction of means a small number or a small portion of them. In this case, the reforms. You could say, I know 100 phrasal verbs. That sounds amazing, right? 100 phrasal verbs. But then if you add, but that's just a fraction of them. Them is the phrasal verbs. It represents the phrasal verbs. But if you say a fraction of, it means a small number or a small portion. So even though 100 sounds large, it doesn't sound very large compared to how many phrasal verbs there are. Let's talk about the pronunciation of them, because there's a strong pronunciation, which is them, but there's also a weak and unstressed pronunciation, them. So it's just that vowel sound that sounds more relaxed and unstressed. This is another reason why native speakers can be difficult to understand, because there are these differences in pronunciation, especially in natural spoken English, which Barack Obama, even though he's the president at this time and he's giving a formal speech, he still is a native speaker. So of course he's going to use natural pronunciation patterns. Now let's look at over the next 5 years. The word over represents between now and 5 years from now. So that time frame is over. You could say, I learned a lot of phrasal verbs over the weekend. So that means the entire time reference from start to finish, and that time reference is the weekend. This is very commonly used in daily speech. You could say, we discussed how to improve our speaking skills over coffee. So you can do something over coffee, over dinner. And that means while we were having coffee. So your coffee has a time reference, a time when you started coffee and a time when you ended coffee. And that period of time is over coffee. Let's continue on with the speech. This is a longer section and there are 2 parts to complete. You'll hear it 3 times.
We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill. We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill. We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill.
Did you hear all the missing words? He said, we got rid of, remember, I told you to remember that, we got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill. Got rid of, let's talk about the pronunciation here. We're going to use connected speech where we take individual words and it sounds like one word. So I'm going to say got rid of. So notice at the end, you can take the word of and you can make it an unstressed sound and say duh. So instead of But we're taking that D sound from rid. Got rid of or got rid of. Dove. Dove is the full sound and duh is the unstressed. And remember that to get rid of means eliminate. We already talked about that. Now let's take a look at could have, because we have the auxiliary verb have, but you can also turn this into an unstressed of. And the same rule applies. You can use duh and say coulda, or you can use dove and say could've, because you're taking that D from could. Coulda, could've. What about this sentence? We could have eliminated the rule. This sentence is grammatically incorrect because the correct sentence is we could have eliminated the rule. Remember that these pronunciation changes, changing have to of, only applies to spoken English. It doesn't apply to written English. So you can verbally say coulda, but in writing, it's considered grammatically incorrect. Let's keep going. Here's the next sentence to complete. You'll hear it 3 times.
Because milk was somehow classified as an oil. Because milk was somehow classified as an oil. Because milk was somehow classified as an oil.
Did you get this one? He said because milk was somehow classified as an oil. I found his pronunciation was quite clear. Do you agree with me here? So let's just look at some vocabulary. Let's look at classified as. To be classified as is the full structure you need, and classified means categorized or designated as something. So you could say phrasal verbs are classified as advanced. You need that word as something, as advanced. Now let's review somehow. In this context, it means that the reasoning or the method, it isn't obvious or it's difficult to understand. So how could milk be classified as oil? That's difficult to understand. So that's why they use somehow. You can use this in your daily speech. You can say, she somehow got the promotion. So just by adding that word somehow, you're questioning why or how she got the promotion. So it takes a statement that sounds positive, she got the promotion, and it actually turns it into more of a negative statement by saying she somehow got the promotion. Now it's the fun part. You're going to hear President Barack Obama make a joke. So you need to complete the missing words and you need to understand why this is funny. Let's see if you can do that. You'll hear it 3 times.
With a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk. With a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk. With a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk.
So, did you complete the missing words? Did you hear the joke? Did you understand the joke? If you did, your English is excellent. He said, with a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk. Before we talk about why this is funny, let's review some pronunciation points. So first, let's take a look at rule. Notice here there are two sounds. We have rule, so that dark L, rule, rule. So if I pronounce this fully, you hear those two sounds, rule. In a more unstressed pronunciation, it won't be as obvious, rule, ool. It's there, but it's very quick, rule, rule. But it is best to make sure you have those two sounds. Now let's take a look at spilled, because there's a difference between British and American English. In American English, we only use the word spilled, spilled. In British English, there's an alternative word that's spelled differently because it's spelled with a T and it's pronounced that way. So it's just the end. In American English, it's always spilled, a soft D, but in British English, it's spilt, spilt. So you might hear spilled, you might hear spilt, but those final sounds aren't pronounced fully in spoken English in both British and American English. Just like in here, you didn't hear the end sound for the word that. It was more of a that. So you just don't press out that final T, that. And milk sounded like milk. So did you hear that the final K sound, that K, was not pronounced? It was just a milk, milk. So you put your tongue in the position of a K, milk, but you just don't push out that sound. Milk, milk. All right, now let's talk about the joke. The style of this joke is called a pun or a play on words. So it's a humorous use of one word or one phrase that has several meanings or that sounds like another word. In this case, you need to know that there's a proverb in English and perhaps in your culture as well. The proverb is, don't cry over spilled milk. If you don't know what this proverb is, the joke probably wouldn't make sense to you. So this proverb, don't cry over spilled milk, means don't get upset over minor issues or minor mistakes, like spilling a glass of milk. It's not worth getting upset over. So you might say, I made a grammar mistake when I was presenting the report, but you're very upset over this. And your friend, your colleague could say, don't cry over spilled milk. It's a grammar mistake. But notice here, Obama said it was worth crying over spilled milk. So Obama is saying that the farmers should be upset over paying $10,000 a year on something silly like proving they can contain a milk spill. Because remember, milk was somehow classified as an oil. So now you understand the joke. Now let's look at was worth crying, because grammatically you need to be worth plus gerund, your verb and ing. You could say it was worth watching this class, and hopefully you agree with that. Now grammatically you could also say something to be worth something. For example, this class was worth it. The it represents something. What is the something? Well, this class was worth watching. So the watching is the it. Think of everything you've learned so far. Let's end this masterclass by learning 14 phrases to help you speak like a leader. Number 1, feel free to ask me anything. Now notice you're learning a complete phrase, so pay attention to all the words. The prepositions, the articles, the sentence structure matters. So notice here we have feel free plus infinitive. The infinitive is, of course, to plus the base verb. Feel free to ask me anything. This is used as a polite, open-ended invitation. I'm inviting you to ask me whatever you'd like. Remember, you can change that verb. I could say, feel free to send me the report when it's ready. This sounds polite and professional. And remember, it's an open invitation. You're not required to do this, it's an option. If you say, send me the report when it's done, this is the imperative, and it's direct and also authoritative. So to sound polite and professional and to give you an open invitation, I can say, feel free to download the free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. And this is a real example because I summarized everything from this lesson in the free lesson PDF. Feel free to download it. Number 2, I look forward to hearing your thoughts. So your colleague could say to you, feel free to send me the report when it's done. And then when it's done, you can send it to your colleague and say, here you go. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Notice our sentence structure. Look forward to plus gerund, your verb in ing. I look forward to hearing. Don't make this mistake. Make sure you have the gerund. And this is a polite way to show your interest. So in this case, your interest in hearing the person's thoughts, their ideas, their opinions, their feedback. You could say, I look forward to meeting, our verb in ing. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow. Now with this structure, you can also use a noun. I look forward to our meeting. That's the noun form. I look forward to our meeting tomorrow. What about you? Are you looking forward to my next lesson? If you are, put yes, yes, yes to show your interest, show your enthusiasm, put yes, yes, yes in the comments. Number 3, here's my take on it. One's take on something is one's opinion on something. So my take on it is simply my opinion on it. For example, I just read the consultant's recommendations. Here's my take on them. Them because recommendations is plural. Now, when I want to share my opinion, my take, I can simply use an opinion word. I think she raised some valid points. Now I can use this as a question. What's your take on the report, on the recommendations? Number 4, from my perspective. Now, this is the same as in my opinion, but notice that preposition difference. From my perspective, in my opinion, so I see a lot of mistakes when students try to use this. If someone asks you your opinion, what's your take on it? You can use this to start. From my perspective, I think the consultant's recommendations aren't practical. So here you can add on I think, an opinion word, even though you use from my perspective, but it's optional. And after you share your opinion, you can invite the other person to provide their opinion. What about you? What's your perspective? Number 5, can you help me understand? This is a polite way to ask for clarification or an explanation. Your colleague could say, from my perspective, the consultant's recommendations aren't practical. You could comment on this and say, I see, interesting, oh really? And then you can add on this expression. Can you help me understand your perspective, your opinion? Can you help me understand? This is a great expression if you want an explanation without sounding very direct or authoritative or angry. If someone says, I don't think we can meet the deadline, you can say, can you help me understand why? Number 6, I'll get back to you with that information. This is a great one because someone might ask you a question or to provide information and you don't have that information. You don't know the answer. Instead of saying, I don't know, you can say, I'll get back to you with that information. You can provide a time reference if you'd like. I'll get back to you by the end of the day. So you just gave yourself a deadline. You could say, I'll get back to you in an hour, or I'll get back to you ASAP. What does ASAP mean? This is a very common acronym. Put it in the comments. ASAP, what's the acronym? Put it in the comments. Number 7, can you fill me in? This is a great one. It's a casual way to ask for an update or a summary. You could say to your colleague, I was on another call this morning. Can you fill me in on the staff meeting? Notice here, when I specify the something, the staff meeting, you have to use the additional preposition on. Can you fill me in on the staff meeting? This is often used by one person to request another person provide information to someone else. For example, your boss could say to you, hey Danica, can you fill Raphael in? And then if you want to specify the something, you need that preposition on the new filing system. Number 8, which one would you like me to prioritize? You can use this to clarify which task should be done first, which one you should prioritize when there are multiple tasks. So you can use this with 2 tasks or more than 2 as well. So if you have multiple tasks, you can go to your boss and say, Sarah asked for help on the report and I have to finish the presentation. Which one would you like me to prioritize? So now instead of feeling overwhelmed, you know exactly which task to focus on, to prioritize. You can use this even just to get advice from someone you trust. I could say to you, from your perspective, which one should I prioritize? So you're not my boss, you're not responsible for assigning me tasks, but I trust you to provide me with valuable feedback. Which one should I prioritize from your perspective? Number 9, I trust you have everything you need. The word trust is used a lot in a business context. This is used to express overall confidence in someone and their abilities. So you might come to me and say, Jennifer, I feel a little nervous. This is my first time giving a presentation. And I can let you know that I have confidence in you and your abilities, and I can say, I trust you. Or I can add on to this and I can say, I trust you can handle this. So the statement is, you can handle this. Handle means you have the ability to do it. You can handle this. Now, if I add I trust, it's adding certainty. I'm certain. I know. I trust you can handle this. Number 10, what can we learn from this? Such a powerful question. You can use this to encourage reflection and analysis after a situation, generally a negative situation. So if something negative happened, I didn't get the promotion. You can say, what can I learn from this? Or I failed my IELTS. What can I learn from this? So instead of being upset, angry, mad, now you're thinking about solutions. You're thinking about what you can do differently. This is a great expression to use when you're working with a team. So again, maybe something bad happened. We lost the client. What can we learn from this? And then you can start brainstorming things you can do differently so it doesn't happen again. Now, to change the sentence structure, you could also say, what can this teach us? So notice, you can learn something from someone or something, a situation, but also something, the situation can teach you something. Number 11, I'm happy to address that. So notice the sentence structure. We have our verb to be, I am happy, our adjective. So you need to conjugate the verb to be. And then you have the infinitive. I'm happy to address that. And this is used to show a willingness to do something. So when your boss asks you to fill Raphael in, you can say, I'm happy to fill Raphael in. And then remember, if you specify the something, you need that extra preposition on the sales process. So you're showing your willingness to do this. This is also a great way to end a presentation or end communication. We're happy to answer any questions you have. So remember that structure, to be happy plus infinitive. Number 12, how can I support you? This is used to offer support, encouragement, assistance, but also to ask how that can be done. Your coworker could be upset and say, I'm so overwhelmed with this project. So you want to show your support. You can say, how can I support you? You can add on, how can I best support you as an intensifier. And then you can even add on your willingness and say, I'm happy to help you in any way I can. You can use this to offer assistance to someone as well. If you know your coworker is very busy, you could say, you have a lot on your plate with this presentation, which means you're very busy. How can I support you? Number 13, I value your input. This is to acknowledge the importance of someone's opinion or ideas. So let's use this right now. How can I make my lessons better? How can I make this lesson better? Or how can I make my lessons overall better? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I value your input. And this isn't just an example, it's 100% true. I really value your input. I truly value your input. So please, if there's anything I can do to improve these lessons for you, I want you to love these lessons. So please put your comments below because I truly value your input. Number 14, I appreciate your hard work on this. Everyone loves to be appreciated, so you can use this to show gratitude, appreciation for someone's work. You can start by complimenting someone. The report looks fantastic. And then add on, I appreciate your hard work on this. Adding that on will make that person feel really valued. Or maybe your friend is planning a party for you and you can say, the menu looks amazing. I appreciate all your hard work on this. You can add all your hard work to intensify it. Do you want me to make another lesson like this? If you do, put masterclass in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And I have another masterclass I know you'll love, so make sure you watch it now.